Hello and welcome to part 3 in a series of simple APA formatting exercises. This video is intended to show you how to do the references page, which some students find difficult, but I would offer to you that this is really an easy process. It's really about knowing where to find the information and just simply proofreading once you've found the information to make sure that you've done it correctly. Now, if you were in the last video, we ended on this, where we went through how to set up the title at the top of this and what paragraph indentation looks like, how far they should be spaced apart. So if you haven't watched that video, please look below because the link to the first and second videos are available to you below. Also, try to take time to subscribe to the channel because I'll be providing many more helpful videos regarding writing, ranging from grammar to formatting to actively researching online and things such as that, and hope to make them simple, easy to understand, and very helpful. So keep that in mind. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, I didn't write out a whole paragraph in the last video because it was really to illustrate how you space these along. But let's talk about the references page. So when you're doing a references page, you have your cover page already done that looks like this. You have your second page where you've begun to write your essay. And then you have the next page which we haven't done yet. So let's pretend that you're like on page 4. If you're on page 4 of this essay, this will not be here, this title that you see, because the only place you will see this title is on your cover page, page 1, and the first page where your text starts, which in this case is page 2. Now that's not always the case. As I said in other videos, your instructor may require an abstract or an author's note even. So keep that in mind that there may be other requirements, and there will be other tutorials on those, but those are more advanced paper writing. So I'd like to cover that in a different series. So let's go ahead and hit the enter key. So we've done our last writing on, say, page 4 instead of 2, because I don't want you to get confused. If we had ended on page 4 and you only had 2 lines, you would not start your references here on this next line. References have their own page and they're completely separate from the other. So I'm going to show you how to do that by entering a page break and starting your references. So let's go ahead to insert, because that's where you'll find the page break button. This may be located in a different place depending on your version of Word, but it's typically here when you hit insert. So page break, and what that does is tell the computer, well, I'm sorry, it tells Word that you want to go to the next page, the first line, and that is where the word references goes. So go back to your home tab, and this is where you can center or uncenter things. You can put things on the left margin, the right margin, you can justify it, or you can center, and references is centered. So if you hit that center key, you're going to see this cursor move to the center, and that's where you want it to be. You're simply going to type references and hit enter. And if you notice, it's still 2.0 spacing like we learned in the other videos, and there's no extra spacing between here to start your first reference. Now references start on your left margin, so all the way on the left, and I'm going to go through a couple of actual references and show you what those look like. First of all, note that your references page is in alphabetical order, so keep that in mind as you do this. We're going to center this, not center that, we're going to uncenter this and put it on the left margin. You can either do that by hitting align left or Control L. You can actually see the control keys up here. Or you can just hit the backspace and it's going to take it back to the left margin. You don't indent here. We're simply going to go ahead and type a reference, and this is a made-up reference, so hopefully you won't go looking for this. It's just for the purposes of illustration, and I'm going to go through and tell you what kind of source it is so that you will know. The first thing we're going to do is a book, and so we're going to go ahead and start with the last name of the author. And then as you make sure it's spelled right too, because these references are meant to provide the reader, you know, you're saying to them, hey, I borrowed this information, I found this information to support my paper from these people, but it's also helpful to the reader. If they have a similar thing that they're doing, they can actually go to your source and find it and be able to use that original source that you're sharing with them. So we're going to do K for Karen, and then the year. So let's pretend that Karen Jones wrote a book this year, in 2017. And then let's just call, let's call our book Interesting Facts About History. Now, you may not find history interesting, or you might, but that's going to be our pretend title today. You put a period after that. In the books, when you look in the front cover, you're going to find the city and state typically and who published it. So in this exercise, we're going to pretend that we have one in New York, and that's New York, and then you're going to have a colon, space, and then whoever published that, so the name of the publisher. And so you have that, and then at the very end of all of this is a period. Now, in this case, we had Jones K. That's the book, and there's nothing else to do here. If you notice something, though, it's quite interesting. The name of the book is not capitalized like title case. In other words, interesting is capitalized, but no other words are capitalized. And I want to show you something here so that you'll hopefully remember this. I'm going to rename this book to show you what this looks like in a situation where there's a colon. So in the case of colons, the title might actually look kind of funny to you, because what they do is they have the word and then the colon, and then they only capitalize the first word. So for instance, if this was finances and the title had a colon and interesting facts about history, this would be the way that would look. So we have Jones here. Now we're going to another reference. It's going to kind of run over to the end of the line so that you can see what a hanging indent looks like. So we need to think of an author's name that is after Jones. So we will do Zimmerman. And Zimmerman's first name is John. The year, let's go ahead and put 2015. And then the period, then hit Control-I or go up to the italics, and you will find, and so we have to make up a title here. Let's just do emergency situations in history, times of war. So completely made up, of course, and I accidentally made a boo-boo. So here's the way to correct that. So times of war. And then at the end of that title, you're going to have your period just like always. Make sure you don't italicize the rest. So in this case, we are doing a edition of the book that is other than the first year. So say there's been 20 editions. This is going to be, let's just call it the third edition. So we've got our title, and let's go backwards and add in the actual edition, and it's either name or number edition. So for example, if it's the third edition, like we're going to do third, and that's always in parentheses. So I'm going to unitalicize it. We're going to put in parentheses, third. And then on edition, first of all, the third is not supposed to be small. So if it makes it small for you, you need to go ahead and hit Control. Hold the Control key down in your bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard and hit Z, and that will correct the problem. It's telling the computer, please don't automatically format that. I don't want it to look that way. So again, that is the Control key, and Z is in zebra at the same time. Now after this, since we're third edition, it's ED period, a parentheses around that, and then of course, as you guessed, a period. Now in this case, we're going to make the city and state Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we'll name the publisher Izzy Publishing. And you have a period. So you can see that. Now the thing here is that this has to be in a hanging indent, is what we call that. So I'm going to go ahead and take my left mouse, hold it down, select all of this. If you hit your right mouse clicker you're going to see a box pop up. You're going to go up to paragraph. And it's very simple. Obviously, if you think about hanging indents, it's special, right? So you're going to go special and you're going to do hanging. Right there it is. It shows you a little picture down here, and hit OK. And there you have it. It is a hanging indent. So next I just want to go through, since we have a few minutes, a different type of reference. So we are going to do an article in a peer-reviewed journal article. So in a peer-reviewed journal article, and we're going to have to enter it in here because we've got a Z here. So I'm going to hit enter and enter my cursor here so that we can add in a different author. Now, depending on how and where you're retrieving your articles, they may look a little bit different. Some peer-reviewed journal articles, which a first key element to look for is that they have a journal that they're in, and it'll say that, like psychology, crime and law, you know, there are all kinds of education journal. So there are medical journal, whatever you're talking about, most of the time it has that. It usually has someone who wrote it that is a professional, such as a PhD, or they work with some specialized team. So keep those things in mind as you're looking at some of the attributes of that. A peer-reviewed journal article might also have things like a methods section. It'll usually have statistical data inside of it and talk about weaknesses of a study and things such as that, and then they'll have concluding remarks. Another thing to look for is that abstract. Abstracts are usually a part of peer-reviewed journal articles, and I will provide some of those items in a different section of the channel so that you can sort of use that as a reference for research so that you can identify those. But for right now, we're just going to do one more source before the video ends on how to format a peer-reviewed journal article. This reference will also be made up, so keep that in mind that you won't be able to actually find this one. So we're going to make our author's name Simpson, and then Janice. And then we're going to look for a year on that article, and usually they are right at the top. Sometimes you'll find them in the footer of the articles, so keep your eyes open. We'll just do a different year here. So we're going to pretend that this was written in 2015. Then the title of the article. Some things that you'll see in common with the ones that you see here is that the title is not in title case again. So for this one, we're going to type in poverty and child removal rates, a historical, I'm sorry, we need to go back and capitalize A, historical reference. And then so in this one, we've got the title. Notice that the title in this, the peer-reviewed journal article, is not like using a book. These are both books, so it's a little bit different. They are not in italics. However, when you put the period after the article, the title of the journal is in italics. So go ahead and Control and I at the same time, or you can go up here and hit this and it should turn blue for you. And we'll just do Sociology Times. And so now you have your journal article and you need a comma. You need to look for a volume. If you notice, the title of the journal and the volume is going to be in italics. So we're going to do maybe volume 4. Now you don't need italics anymore, so you're going to take that off. You can either click this to take it off, or you can hit Control I to take it off. And the control button again is in the left corner of your keyboard. Go ahead and put your parentheses, and we're going to just do maybe 5. So we've got volume 4, issue 5. So you're telling the reader this is where you would go in that on that journal to find the information. Now pages, we're going to put pages 16 through 22, and then a period, and then where it was retrieved from. In this case, we're going to put JSTOR, and so you can see how this is formatted. And because we'd already done the hanging indent, it applied to this one as well. If it didn't, you would go through the same process to fix it. So this is what your references page looks like. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you haven't watched the first 2 videos, please do so. They may be helpful to you as well. As always, I hope that your writing goes well, and I've left the links down below to the first 2 videos. Hopefully you'll subscribe so that you can receive notifications of new videos that may help you in your writing process. Thank you so much for listening.